What is going on, Comic Fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I'm welcoming back to the show Zack Kaplan. Welcome back, my friend.
Hey, thank you.
If you are not familiar with Zach's work, I don't know what you're doing because Zach, like, you put out so many books and they're so consistently good, like Eclipse and Port of Earth and Masterminds was one of my favorite a couple years ago, and Join the Future,
Oh,
like
you mean mindset?
Mindset. What did I say?
Yeah.
Masterminds?
Masterminds. Yeah, you got,
Well,
yeah.
spoiler alert, that's coming out. I did like that
Yeah.
one too, issue one, but yeah, Mindset. Oh, that was such a good one. So,
Thank you.
and I had you on last year. We were talking, I believe, Kill All Immortals, the first
Yeah,
volume,
that would have been the first one last year. Yeah, that's
and
right.
the next volume's coming out this week. So I said, let's talk again. So
Yeah.
welcome back to the show. Is someone?
Thank you,
Let's
man.
hop right in because people know your comic book story because I've had you on enough. Let's hop
Yes.
into your books. What Kill All Immortals? If someone missed out on the first volume, what do they need to know? What do they need to know to prep to get ready for this
No,
one?
and we launched the second arc, so to speak, as kind of a new number one because we wanted people to have a jumping on point. We didn't want people to feel like they have to go read the first five. Although I'm pretty confident that if you pick up the new number one and you like it, you're gonna want to go back and see. But you get to have that freedom to try it out. So, Kill All Immortals is a family of Vikings. And 1,000 years ago they discover a secret form of immortality, and they are now immortal, and 1,000 years later they're this barbaric billionaire empire. Immortality is a metaphor for billionaires, and the only daughter of the entire family finally wants out. That is the saga of the first arc, and she has united her siblings, so to speak, against her father. But I won't reveal too much more about the circumstances of the first arc. Needless to say, this new arc kicks off, and we are very quickly going to find out that there are more threats out there to this family. And it just is awesome. I've always wanted to do just a really bombastic and dramatic action series, and I feel like a lot of my stuff, I mean, everything you mentioned from Join the Future to Eclipse had action in them, but they weren't like straight up action series. This is straight up an action series. Fico Ossio and Thiago Rocha just like have so many killer action sequences. So yeah, it was a very exciting response to the first volume, and we got the go ahead to become ongoing. We're doing it kind of as in arcs, and so yeah, just in a couple of days here, we're ready to unleash some more immortal awesomeness.
Yeah. So what? Why was this the vehicle? Because like you said, you have action in your other books, but this is a full-on onslaught. So why was this the right vehicle for you to kind of just dip your toes into the just onslaught of violence, John Wick style?
Yeah, that's a great. I don't know what I knew from the get-go. Like, even when I was working on this with Fico, I had not done an ongoing since Port of Earth, and I felt like this had that potential.
Mm,
I think because, you know, one of the things is, in an action story, it's important to me not to lose sight of the character.
mm,
And Frey is a very fascinating character. She is torn between wanting to be independent and free from the struggles of her family. She's kind of this ordinary, she wants to be ordinary. And so I think she's very relatable. She's got, really good morals and values, but she's corrupted by her family. And the only way to combat them and fight them is to fight fire with fire. She's got to embrace violence. She's got to embrace fighting to become free of them. And she finds the same sort of challenges in the new arc. And so I think that, like, in an action story, the action and the world eat up so much of the room for the
mm.
story. And so she has such a deep opportunity to, like, grow and evolve and be challenged as a character. So I think it wasn't so much like, oh, Immortal Vikings is cool, as much as this character was really what I thought had the potential for more of an ongoing story.
Yeah. So you mentioned that this you can hop into this new arc.
Yeah.
That's why you set it up as a number one. did you have from the get-go the mindset writing this? Because you also mentioned that you felt like it could be an ongoing. Did you know when did you know like in your writing process that you were going to continue or try to tell the story more?
I mean, at the beginning of it, like when we were forming the first story, I mean, the amount of what could the next arc be was very small. You know, it was like I knew that, spoiler alert, I knew there would be other immortals that this family would have to face. And I knew that the next chapter would be facing off against another clan of immortals. So I knew that, but I didn't know anything else. I mean, you discover that as a writer, and I
Yeah.
think discovering not just the plot, not just the action, not just the twists and turns, because there's some great twists and turns in this, but like where the character's going. Like, okay, this was her journey in the first arc. What is her journey here? You kind of discover it. You create these characters and then you put them in these situations and they speak to you and tell you what it's going to be. And so, but no, we just knew that we had something special with this character in this setup.
Yeah. And you mentioned the art already. How did this team because this correct me if I'm wrong, this is the same team from the first arc, mostly
It
from
is
the second. Okay.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how did your team come about, to put this group together to work on Kill All Immortals 2?
I mean, Fico and I have been talking for years. What's really fun and fascinating is, so Fico is known for a bunch of great books. He did No One Left to Fight, but that was a really bright and vibrant style, and I believe Fico colored that
Mm.
as well.
Oh, I'm trying to think who
That
I
was Audrey
Aubrey.
Sitterson. Yeah.
Okay, I knew I read that one. I was trying to remember what.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was a Dark Horse series. They did 2 volumes of that. But it was a very uh like just a completely different style
Right.
than this. And Figo put up some Batman um art on Instagram and I saw it. It was like spec art. I was like, we had already been talking about doing something, but I was like, you do this like this more grounded noir realistic
Yeah.
tone. Let's go. I immediately pitched him Kill All Immortals. I had been looking for an artist for this book and he immediately loved it. He has got a Viking tattoo and we were like, all right, this is perfect. And we brought him. I'd worked with Thiago Rocha on the Midnight Shadows collaboration with the synthwave band The Midnight, and absolutely fell in love with Jago's work. And so we brought him on. They made a fantastic match. It's an absolutely gorgeous blend of like modern luxury. Like it feels like you are walking right into like Secession. And then there are these other like ancient Viking locales. And then the fight sequences are just really dynamic. And so the fun of this all is Fico is also right now working on Batman and Robin at DC. So he's been a rising star over there, and now he's drawing Batman. And so it's funny that his Batman samples have led him to both, the success of Kill All Immortals, but now also Batman. So, but yeah, it's really a dream team. I'm really proud of the mix of world building and action and character storytelling that goes on in this series.
Yeah. Well, and it's got to be fun for you, like getting the pages back because the artwork is stunning and like
Yeah,
some of the fight scenes. So like when you like as a writer are like working on for your artist, like I want this fight scene. Do you give much direction or do you just kind of say have fun with this? Like how do you approach stuff like that?
I mean, I do try to give them more. I give Fico more structure, knowing that he can embellish or, and I'll say, this character hits this. One of the reasons I give a little more too is because, like, the injuries have to track. You've got immortals that are getting hit with axes all over their bodies. So I will reference where someone is getting hit specifically, like this guy's hitting the shoulder, this person's about to break a leg, and this sort of stuff. But in terms of the framing and the layout
Yeah.
style and the paneling and the nuance of all that, that's all Fico, and he excels at it. It's absolutely fantastic. And Chago came up with this amazing visual design to amplify the energy of these fight sequences by having certain gold or red filters over some of the panels, which really makes it kind of dramatic action. So it's absolutely stunning. Yeah.
Yeah. Where where was this idea like originate for you? Because like this is something that is you have such a diverse portfolio when it comes to your writing, like
Totally.
across the board of like whether it's tech based stuff, whether it's futuristic based stuff, whether
Yeah.
whatever. So like, maybe for this, but for everything, like how do you kind of process your ideas as a writer?
Yeah. I mean, like any writer, sometimes things just come to you, and like you just take the ideas as they come to you, the muses, so to speak. But
Yeah.
I do like to ask myself, like, what is my immortal story? What is my mind control story? What is my um secret society story? What is a trope? I like to look at a trope.
Yeah.
What's my what's my western sci-fi western, like what is that? Where do I plant that? What would a future be where I'm looking at a western? So I'd like to explore just the lane, the swimming pool and then say, well, what hasn't been done or what's different? And a lot of times, and I think this is important for all creators out there, what do I want to say about immortality? What can I say about immortality that hasn't been said? I don't want to look at immortality. Interview with a Vampire I already did that immortality is insufferable. I want to find different ways into the story and Highlander does its own thing with immortality. The Old Guard does its own thing with immortality. So looking at these, so a lot of times I like to look at what's already been out there and say, okay, I like to know what I want to do differently. And then, for this, it was, does immortality exist right now? Are there immortals in our society? And the way wealth and power gets passed on, the way oligarchs and multi-billionaires kind of rule the world right now, and we're all like mortals in comparison, like that kind of feels pretty real to me. And what are we supposed to feel about that or do about that? And that was the beginning of Kill All Immortals.
I love that. I love that idea of like looking at tropes and saying like, what would my take? What would the Kaplan take be on this?
Yeah.
Because there's always just unique versions of how people come up with their ideas, and so to kind of look at like, well, what's already out there, and what can you add to your story and bring to the table? I think that's a really cool way to look at
Well, and
things.
I feel like it helps me because I hope that people feel like when they pick up a book of mine, it's not maybe always saying something, but it's certainly talking about something. It's raising questions. It's provoking thought. I want people to think when they read my stories, and so I find that a good way to do that is to not just merely start with a character or merely start with a conflict, but to start with this global view of a trope, a theme, an idea, and make sure that that stays central to the whole thing. Our apps are controlling us. What if mind control is already in an app? What if we created it and so that's mindset. Like, and it
Yeah.
always the story and the characters are built around the idea.
One of the things too of like you have such unique characters and stuff, and when you landed on Vikings, right, for Kill All Immortals, like
Yeah.
did you have a knowledge of like a lot of Viking lore? Was this something that you always had, or once you found that kind of lane, you're like, I gotta go dig and do some
No,
research?
I had to go dig, and there's lots of interesting things and and I dug up the story is focused on Eric the Red, and this is his family, and he had four adult children, and Frey was the only girl, and so that immediately kind of set the stage for, well, that can't be easy. Uh, but yeah, I had to do a lot of research and research on Eric the Red, research on his banishment from Norway to Greenland to Iceland, and kind of his tactics, and he was not a stand-up guy all the time, and yeah, and Viking culture, and try to infuse some of the words. I like to throw in some of the language into the story. So yeah, I tried to do my research, but it's also a modern story. It takes place 1,000 years later. I think some of the Viking has been bled out of them, and I think they're a kind of combination of ancient Viking barbarians and modern capitalists. Yeah,
Well, that's why, because on the back of the trade it says, kind of like a blend of Succession meets John Wick, and
yeah,
I was
that's
just like, that's why I wanted to ask like how you come up with the ideas where you're just sitting watching Succession one day and you're like, what if they fought each other like
it. I
immortals?
think I did. No, to be totally honest, I think I also had that that experience as well. I do think I was watching Secession over many years, and as I was coming up with this idea of immortality and billionaires and like, and it kind of was like, well, what if you wanted, because so the thing that makes this story different than other immortality forms is this is about living with a family. Like, what if the family is immortal? How do you deal with a family that you hate, that you want out of, but they're immortal? And so having that idea and billionaires as immortality and secession, wouldn't this be cool if they whipped out weapons and started trying to kill each other? All kind of like manifests itself. I feel like ideas are houses and it never starts with one beam. It's always like three or four beams that are just swimming around that all connect at the same time, and that's where it comes from. So I feel like it always takes more than one touch point of
Yeah.
inspiration for an idea to truly have value.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning of the show, I said that like, you whenever I bring you on, you have like a lot of titles going on at the same time, it seems like.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, trying, as you're looking at different lanes and trying avenues to find tropes and stuff, you kind of wanted to deal with a secret society at some point, and that's kind of what it sounds like with this other series that you got coming out from Dark Horse, Masterminds.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, Masterminds is came out just a month ago, and we have the second issue coming out not this week but next week. And it's basically the world's smartest secret society, and they're inviting you to play their game. They will open every door imaginable to help you succeed in life. You just have to be smart enough and perhaps cutthroat enough to win their game. And it follows a young programmer gets pulled into this. It's very much like David Fincher's The Game, little Squid Games, but it's in the real world. It's not off on an island, and it's absolutely just kind of this edgy uh, thriller. Beautiful artwork by Stephen Thompson and Thiago Rocha, the same colorist on Kill All Mortals, and Hassan Asmin El House, same letterer. And yeah, absolutely fantastic looking book for sure.
Oh, it looks great, and I read issue one when it came out, and where you're going with the setup. One of the things I feel like you have a really talent at as a writer is hooking us into the main characters right off the bat with like like we felt that with Frey, we felt that with the young programmer who found his
Yeah,
getaway in video games. Like that was his
yeah,
escape because right off the bat you talk about his mom died, he didn't have anybody, and so like that was his grandparents were kind of off in their own world, and so
yeah.
he just found his escape in video games, and that became his life. So we instantly, just in 2 pages, were like, oh my goodness, I can relate to this person.
Yeah, and I think it's more important, especially in stories where you're going to have complex characters. And
Yeah.
this is definitely a character that's complex, very much like Mindset. I think Frey is a complex character in Kill All Immortals. I like looking at characters that you don't know which way they're going to go. You don't know if their stories are tragedies or if they're going to end well. I feel like that's really modern and it's really interesting for readers. And so Edward is a flawed character. On the one hand, he's had a really rough childhood. He lost his mother. There's no mention of his father. He lived with his grandparents. He's having fights on the in his town, and he finds solace in games. And I think we've all had those sorts of experiences. And he falls in love with wanting to be creative and wanting to make his mark on the world and share his love for creativity, for storytelling, for games. I feel like everybody who reads comics can relate to this. And he runs into an existential institutional problem where the world says, hey, all those things that are in your kindergarten class, like be kind to others and work hard and all these things, that's not how the real world works. That's not how you get ahead. And it's kind of something that we all know. And so that was really what I wanted to write about, is like the gamification of success. And it's frustrating to see a character, so you care about him, but
Mhm.
then you're rooting for him, but are you rooting for him to join a secret society where you have to be cutthroat to get ahead? So
Yeah, no, and there's a panel like in the first issue where like you kind of see a look in his face, and you're like, oh, like
yeah,
like is this a good thing or bad? So like
yeah,
so kudos to the art team for as well for like being able to sell those moments that you as a writer are crafting that, but then the
totally.
execution of the art, well done.
Yeah, Steven really is great with characters, and it's a very cinematic style, and he absolutely gets right in the character's face and captures those moments, and it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned early in the story too that like, we all play games and we all like games. And I was like, is that true? And then you're like, you list off like, the mom playing the New York Times game, basically the
Yeah.
Wordle and connections and, or fantasy football. I was like, oh my goodness, I play all those games.
Yes. I mean, yeah, even if you're not playing like Call of Duty, I feel like we all have something that's been gamified, and
Yeah.
I've said this on other outlets like, looking for a job is gamified now, a dating is gamified with all these apps. Everything is gamified. I think we view the world in a far more transactional way. I think technology and culture have changed than when I was a kid, and everything is far more transactional and gamified, and there might be some merits to it, but I think it has a very dangerous impact on how we view and pursue success.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's something that as a reader we appreciate of, these are stories that it's more than just the plot, right? There's a deeper meaning to what you're trying to tell, or at least get us to think about. Maybe, you might not even be
Yeah,
like, hey, I want you to, this is what I think you should think. It's just like, I would just want you to think about this.
yeah. I actually make a point to try. Well, I don't know if Greg, I make a point to. I don't have the answers. I don't know what we're supposed to do about any of this stuff. Like
Yeah.
our phones are mind controlling us, billionaires are ruling the world. You have to be, a cutthroat asshole to get ahead in life. I don't know the answer to any of these things. I just am like, are you guys seeing the same thing I'm seeing? And I think we all find comfort at least seeing it and talking about it and exchanging that ideas. And I like to look at characters that try to maintain their humanity and their morals and their connections and these things that matter. And if they don't, it's a tragedy. And if they do, it's a success story for all of us. So either way, there's the response is not, I don't know that we can change the world, but we can protect ourselves maybe.
Yeah. So with this one, did you kind of have an idea of where you're going with Masterminds right off the bat of like self-contained or possibility of spinning
Yeah,
off and
yeah. This one felt more self-contained, and it is a mini series. It's a mini series because uh I want the character story to be more consequential immediately towards the end. I want to build towards a more dangerous potential ending one way or the other, and so that is more in line with a sort of mini series. So yeah, I knew right from the get-go that this was more of a contained story.
and so it
Yeah.
just kind of for you it seems like whatever the story kind of dictates, obviously sales and things like that down the road also dictate, but for you mostly the story of like, is it going to be a self-contained or is it going to be an ongoing comes from kind of right off
Yeah,
the bat.
I mean, look, Kill All Immortals could not have succeeded as well as it had, and we would have known that when issue one came out, and I probably would have had time to change the ending prior to it. The ending of issue five, we would have just not had a cliffhanger there. So there is some where it has the potential, and you're waiting to see how it does to see if you can spin into the next season. But it's taken me, I've been making comics for 9 years, and it's taken me time to crack the code to figure out what is the right way to tell an arc in a way that it can go, and what is the value of having an arc have the potential to go, or versus, there is Masterminds is 100% going to end at issue five, and we are not going to do any more of that. Mindset was absolutely a six-issue ending, and so I think there's a lot of value in just sticking the landing, having the story end, saying something impactful, or raising some thought, interesting, thought-provoking content, and then that's it. And the readers go, "That was a great experience," and that's it for them too. So I think there's kind of different values, and I think there's different scopes and different amounts of stories that go into each kind of a book.
Yeah, and I appreciate that to see there's many times where I'll pick up an issue number one. I'm like, this is a really great idea, and then it seems like next couple issues like it doesn't stick the landing. It doesn't stick where like mindset though. boom, it stuck the landing. It told the story, like, and
Yeah.
that's why it was one I loved from a couple years ago. So, like, I think the ending and knowing where you're going, like you said, cracking that code is just as important as the original idea that you have for
Well,
a
and
book.
look, I'll be straight. One of your favorite books is Join the Future. You said,
Mhm.
Join the Future. I didn't know if we were going to do more or not. I thought there was the potential to do more. It came out during the pandemic. We went through a crazy time with that book at that time, and we ended up not doing more. I wrote the ending. Uh, on the one hand, she rides off into the sunset, but on the other hand, she rides kind of towards the city, and there's this indication that there could be more story to be told. And in retrospect, I probably would have changed that. I probably would have ended it, more definitively.
Yeah,
And if I had gotten the chance to do more, I would have just broached that story, at the beginning of the next arc. So if you leave any sort of crack open at the end, you have to be aware that you're letting readers you're provoking readers to want more,
right,
and so there's people can come up to me and say I want more mindset, but I know there's probably not going to be more mindset because there's really no door
right.
open at the end. You go, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, no, join the future. There still is that crack, and there's still me going, Zach, send me your scripts. I want to
yeah.
really see where you're going
Yeah.
with it. So,
Although, who knows? One day there'll be, a TV show, Join the Future, and then I'll absolutely do more of this. So,
see, there we go.
yeah.
Is there anything that I want to respect your time that we haven't gotten to talk about yet? I know you're a busy person, creator all the time. So,
I'll tell you, I have one last book, which is a Mad Cave graphic novel called
Mhm.
Dark Empty Void that came out in bookstores and online last week, and due to some sort of odd distribution shipping delay, which doesn't seem to. It's the stories about black holes. Clearly, there's also black holes in the world of comic book distribution. So that is now coming out next week in comic shops. And I always prefer that readers get their books from comic shops. So if you haven't picked it up yet, definitely look for that as well next week. It's an awesome sci-fi cosmic horror story about black holes, very much like Annihilation or Arrival. Chris Sheehan, Francisco Segala are on art with Justin Birch on letters. Absolutely fantastic book. Really excited for people to check that out too.
yeah, it's so good because I think we talked about issue one a little bit last year too,
Yeah, that would have
and
been
so
maybe last year.
yeah,
Last year, the first issue came out. Yeah.
and so then like again, just like these three books, if you're watching or listening to this, they're like all completely different with their own different voice, but like they're unique. But they're so well crafted from a
Thank you.
storytelling standpoint. So definitely check that out as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we were talking about games. I'd be remiss to ask, like, do you have a game that you're addicted to? Like, we all have, I feel like we all
Oh,
have some.
I'm in big trouble, Greg. I think one of my favorite games for the last at least 5 or 10 years has been Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh,
Tsushima.
okay.
It's a PlayStation game. You're a samurai. You roam around the Japan, kicking ass, and it's absolutely gorgeous. That came out several years ago. It was a huge AAA
Mhm.
game, and I easily lost 100 hours of my life to that game. And the sequel comes out later this week. It's called Ghost of Yotai, and I'm like, I can't get it yet because I have too much work, and I know that when I get it, it will eat some of my life up, but I will be eventually getting that game, and I will lose many hours to that
Yeah.
game. So I like open world games. I like games that tell stories, and I like games that have sort of really complex characters. Like all the things I like about comics, I like that in the game. I'm not someone that just needs to mindlessly shoot something. I want to find like meaning, and I like, and the same reason I write about this in Mastermind. I like the control you can get in a game. Like you're given a challenge, whether the challenge is storm the castle or find the right way to sneak in and steal the thing, or the right way to kill everybody in this. You're given a challenge, but the challenge is always doable, and you can have the control to succeed at it. And that's obviously not the way life works. So I like that about games a lot. So
Right.
yeah, but I grew up I grew up on everything from all the Mario and Zelda stuff to
Mm.
all the Sierra games and Lucasfilm games on computers, and you know, Doom and all that, all the shooters when shooters came out, all the Ultima Online RPG stuff when all that came out. I had to definitely clock out at college because I was really into games a lot in high school and growing up.
Yeah, you mentioned Sierra, like we did the computer game King's Quest on that all the time
Oh,
growing up. Man, so many
so
hours.
good. So good. Yeah.
Oh,
So good. King's Quest was great. I'm so shocked that that stuff hasn't been translated into more media because Space Quest, King's Quest, all that stuff was really fantastic. It was
yeah.
great.
Oh man, I can go down a whole rabbit hole here. So
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on it. But
on old school games. So Kill All Immortals, issue
Kill All
one,
Immortals.
two.
Yeah. And there are four. I'll just tell you too, since you're listening. If you're listening, you're like, I got to pick it up. There are some amazing covers. We got Tula Lote. She just won the Eisner for covers. We've got John Jang. And if you know who John Jang is, he's like one of the best cover artists in the game right
Mhm.
now. He's at every single convention. He's such an amazing dude and such an amazing artist. Matt Taylor is an incredible artist from UK, I believe, and we got a cover from him. And then Oliver Barrett, who just won a Ringo for cover art. He does the whole A series. It's this whole style of like, looks like a fashion magazine, but blood's everywhere, and all the characters look just super sick. And so he does this. So we made it very hard, but absolutely a lot of great covers on the book to pick up this week.
Yeah, gang, go pick it up this week. If you have read the first volume, you're going to want to pick up the next one anyways, I know. And if you haven't, pick up issue one and then
Yeah,
go back and pick up the trade because you're going to
yeah,
want it. Trust me, you're going
yeah.
to want to. So it'll work out. And then catch up on Masterminds.
Yeah,
Um,
just the first issue out on that. So it's just one issue to pick up before the second one comes out next week.
and then get the trade from Mad Cave. Let's just
Yeah,
go and just say,
let's
hey, go to
go.
your comic shop and say, give me the Kaplan special, and they'll know what it is.
That's right.
So, well, where can people follow along, stay up to date with all the stuff
Yeah,
you're
I'm
working on?
online, Zach Caps on all social media platforms. And yeah, hit me up. Let me know what you think of the books. I'll be at New York. I'll be at New York Comic Con in when is it? Whenever it's right around the corner in a
Yeah,
week or two. So yeah,
perfect.
if you're in that area, come say hi in
Get
Artist
your book
Alley.
signed. So,
Yeah, get your book signed.
all right. Well, that being said, gang, whether you're listening or watching on YouTube, make sure you click the links in the description of this video. Go to your shop, support these books, and hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out.